Welcome to the final days. Today is October 29, 2019. I apologize for the delay in getting this video out, but I was in a minor crisis. I had no firewood to heat my home with, so for the past 5 weeks, I've been cutting and splitting firewood at a furious pace between entertaining housefuls of company coming and going. The purpose of this channel is to show the viewers that we are living in the very last days according to the Holy Bible, and to explain why this is actually good news and cause for celebration. Explain later in this video. Viewers have my permission to use any parts of any of my videos without worrying about copyrights. No editing is done on any of these images except where obvious contrast has been added to enable better viewing. Today's video starts out on the eastern coast of Canada. These cameras are the very first in the North American continent to see the eastern rising sun. But unfortunately, all of the rising sun images have been removed from the weather cameras along the eastern coast. Just to show you a couple examples, let's begin with the east-facing weather camera in Mary's Harbor in Newfoundland. The green dots in the upper left corner of the screen represent the Alaskan FAA weather cameras, and the blue dots represent the Canadian weather cameras. Mary's Harbor is the easternmost weather camera in North America. Anyone can go to this web page at avcams.faa.gov, which is printed at the top right corner of all the Alaskan FAA weather camera images in these videos. Actually, it's in the top left. After clicking on the dot that represents Mary's Harbor, 4 cameras pop up on the screen, facing in different directions as labeled. I'm going to click on the loop button on the east-facing camera. There are 2 rows of tiny icons near the top of the screen. The white images are pictures that have been removed. The darker icons represent images that haven't been removed. As you can see, most of the images have been removed. Let's click on one of the tiny icons to view the picture. We see mostly clouds with a little blue sky. A close-up shows the same thing, but all of the images showing the rising sun have been removed from this camera. If we jump south on the map down to the Sable Island camera in Nova Scotia, we find a similar scenario. Only here, all of the images are gone, which means that they turned off the east-facing camera completely. The same thing happened with the east-facing camera in Trenton, Nova Scotia. This camera has also been turned off. For time's sake, we'll just look at one more east-facing camera in Canada. This one is Peawanuck, Ontario. In just a minute we will view images from the Attawapiskat camera just south of this one. But for now, I'll click on the loop button below on the east-facing camera. All but 12 images have been removed from this camera this morning, so we are unable to view the rising sun from this camera. The south-facing camera in Attawapiskat, Ontario, shows the sun coming up on the left. As usual, the sun appears to suddenly shrink down to 1/5 its size as the real sun goes behind a mammoth structure between the Earth and the sun, and NASA's manufactured light passes in front of this enormous structure. In recent months, it is not possible to view this structure because it is kept cloud-covered. If you look closely, you can see a blurred image of part of this structure. But here's some footage from March of last year, showing much more of this object that the sun goes behind for 4 hours every day. This object cannot be seen from the United States, for the same reason that only a small portion of the world can view a solar eclipse as the moon passes between the sun and the earth. The path of totality is a tiny spot compared to the total surface of the earth. Last year, an astronomer advised me that this was a dark nebula. But now I question that, because a nebula would not be following the earth on its journey around the sun, such as this object does. The only thing I know for sure about this structure is that it is definitely a sign that we are living in the very last days. Jesus describes the last days in Luke chapter 21, verse 25, when he says that we will see signs in the sky when the end is near. As Christians, we are commanded to watch for these signs and wonders, signaling the end of the age, so that we are not ignorant of the very late hour in which we are living, and so that we can be spiritually prepared for what lies ahead and help others become spiritually prepared. The south-facing camera in Cheakamus Canyon, British Columbia in Canada, captured some very odd footage. Something is shining behind the mountain. But 10 minutes later, another object appears to be rising on the left. This one is the real sun. Several images from this footage have been removed. As we move through this footage, we actually see 3 separate objects. Technology is in place to blur and fade these celestial objects from view. But I still wondered if one or more of these could possibly be a screen smudge. So I dug through last year's images and I found the same thing. However, it was earlier in the year, March 2018, so the sun is further to the left. However, in this footage from March of last year, we see the same 3 objects converging, then separating into 3 separate shining celestial orbs. If this is a screen smudge, it will appear in the same place week after week, month after month, because it's on the lens or the housing. Notice how this large celestial object simply becomes blurred, then fades away from view. So I placed the 2 images side by side on the screen to see if these 3 orbs were in exactly the same place on both images. Using screen pixels, we see that the photo from March 2018 on the left shows the center of the lowest orb exactly 327 pixels from the left of the screen. But in the image from this month, October, the center point of the lowest orb in the triplet cluster is 456 pixels from the left side of the screen, 29% further to the right than last year's image. This proves that this cluster of shining orbs is not a screen smudge. A screen smudge doesn't move. However, this cluster of shining celestial objects has moved to a different location in the sky. Untold trillions have been spent to hide an inbound planetary system from the unknowing masses. In a minute, we will be viewing more of this technology, which has likely arrived with the assistance of fallen angels, the demonic realm, since they've been here much longer than we have and they are smarter than we are. The enemies of Christ do not want you to know how close to the end we are. The enemies of Christ do not want you to turn your life over to Jesus while you still have time. Information is at the end of this video instructing you on how to accept Christ into your life. The southeast-facing camera in Grave Point shows a reflection in the water of the rising sun. We know this is the sun because the sunrise chart for Sitka, which is only a few miles away, shows that the sun rose up above the horizon between 7 and 8 a.m. on October 26, when this image was captured by the weather camera. This coincides with the sunrise chart for this area. However, as we move through this footage further, we find that 90 minutes later, another very obvious sun is rising up from behind the mountain. There is no question about these images. The heavy cloud cover failed to hide this indisputable imagery of another sun rising 90 minutes after we saw the reflection of the first sun rising. The southwest-facing camera in North Slope, Alaska, shows a celestial object well hidden in the atmospheric chemicals. However, some contrast shows another celestial object. Moon charts for this area prove that this cannot possibly be the moon at this time of day from the direction this camera is facing. This is yet another sign that we are living in the very last days. The south-facing camera in McKinley, Alaska, also shows two suns rising. Here we see the real sun on the very left, according to the sun charts. Then, a couple hours later, another obvious sun is rising up from behind the mountains, but more to the center of the picture. There is no question that this is some type of sun casting shadows on the landscape and lighting up the sky. Once again, the cloud cover failed to hide the second sun. Some of you have seen this older footage from August. This was captured by the southeast-facing camera in Yukon River Bridge, Alaska. Remember that lens flares of the sun don't rotate. This celestial object has an obvious rotation, as you can see. It is impossible for this to be a lens flare of the sun.